Okay, so the first image that I'm going to work on is the add image. So I'm going to pick one of my photos. There you go. So what I'm going to do, and if you need more practice, this is a great review for our copy and pasting, right? Like how you guys were making your collage. So I'm going to get my marquee tool, select the area that I want, and I'm going to go to edit, copy, and I'll go to my layered PSD file, and I'm going to do my edit, paste. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out because you can see that my image is a little bit larger than the space, which is fine. And then I did edit, free transform. Hopefully this is somewhat familiar or starting to be familiar to some of you. Great. Okay, I'll just kind of swim a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to hit return to apply the change. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be replacing the image in that frame, right? Do you see the print? I'm going to replace it. So I'm going to open up my file that I actually want to replace it with. So again, figure out what that file is for you. This is a Photoshop collage, okay, that I did. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to get my marquee tool. I'm going to select it, edit copy or Command C. And I'll click on my layered Photoshop file and paste. Okay. So you can see my layers. I've got the layer that I want to add, and then my image of where I want to add it to. This looks like it got skewed. Let's see. I'm just adjusting this because it looks like my image kind of got skewed a little bit. All right. And I currently have my two layers, so I'm going to save. I'm saving constantly. I'm going to turn this layer on, and we're going to adjust the opacity so we can kind of see through it. All right. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to distort this image so it can fit right into that frame. Okay, so it's a couple steps. Go edit, free transform. Some of this might look very familiar, and I'm going to get it so it's a little bit closer to the size. If you're picking an image that's like the perfect proportion, this will work out even better. But I'm going to kind of work with what I have. Okay, so as you can see, we're kind of close. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. So I can do this with a couple of things. So I'm going to either create a mask or I can distort the image. And I'll show you what those two things look like. So I'm going to make a duplicate of my layer here so I can show you both things in this one file. And I'm going to name this Distort. And I'll name this one Mask. Just so I'll remind myself. Okay, so for the Distort version, I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. Okay, I'm going to right click with my mouse. And there usually is a function, I wonder if. Okay, perfect. I'm going to right click with my mouse. And right here, there's a distort option. If you click on that, you'll notice it doesn't look very different. But what this allows you to do, it allows you to manipulate the corners. You can zoom in a little bit. You can kind of see that you're able to fit things to that frame. Okay, so you can actually adjust it as needed. Again, this will probably look best if your frame or whatever you're taking is proportional. I'm kind of working with what I have, but I think it'll definitely work. And then I'm going to hit the return key, right? And as you can see, I can turn this layer on and off. Okay, so I can put this to full opacity. That's starting to look pretty good. There's one detail here that I think would be amazing for us to kind of pull off. So I'm going to kind of show you guys since we're right here. If you can see this reflection, do you see this reflection here? It's almost right on top of that image, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of copy that reflection. I'm going to trace this reflection. Doesn't have to be super perfect, but I want to get it close. All right. And then I'm going to create a brand new layer. Okay. And I'm going to fill this with white. Click OK. Okay. So just so you can see it, this is the image that we had in the frame. Then we added our distort, this image on top of it. So now we actually now have kind of like this image that looks like it's going to be in that frame. And then I traced this reflection right there. So if I turn on all my layers, you can see that this white reflection layer, it doesn't really look like a reflection at the moment, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the opacity of this to make it a little bit more believable that it's a reflection. And then I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. But let me just move it up a little bit. Can you see how like the edges are so crisp? It doesn't look like a believable reflection, at least to me. And so I'm going to blur the edges a little bit. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur. There's this thing called Gaussian Blur. Okay. And you can see that you're able to control the blur. So while I'm moving this, just keep your eye on that reflection, right? The higher the number, the harder the blur, like the bigger the blur. But I don't need too big of a blur. I kind of just need it so it looks like it's in there. And I just to fuzz up the edges. And I'm going to click OK. Right? So if I zoom out, we're looking pretty good. But I want to just kind of clean up this edge right here. See that? And to do that, we're going to use a mask. So some of you guys have gotten to know that. So I'm on my white reflection here. I'm going to add a mask. And then if you remember, we're going to use your brush to go onto the mask. White, when you brush on the mask, makes things appear. So I'm going to switch this and it's going to be black, so it makes things disappear. And so I'm on my mask and I've got my brush and my setting is at about 100. Okay. Left bracket, right bracket makes your brush bigger or smaller. And I'm just going to paint on that edge really quick. It's two sides of it. Okay, just like that. And I'm going to do save, right? Command S or file save. Okay. Here we are, right? Here's our before and our after. I think I can zoom out so it looks kind of in the same scale range, right? And then once, this is all my PSD, I'm still saving. So these are the three layers that make that up, right? So I'm going to make sure these are turned on, okay? And I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to have this saved on my computer. And I'm going to go to Format, JPEG. And I'm going to do my file name and I'm going to add the word plus so I know what it is called. And I click Save, right? So in this situation, the 12 quality is perfect, so you can see it. And with that JPEG that I just saved out, that's what you post to Canvas, right? That's what you're going to post on our discussion board. So that's the first one. Okay, so that's our first plus. I want to use the same file for all three because it'll be less cumbersome, to do. That was my first edition. So I want to, since all of these are related to the the plus manipulation, I'm going to select all three, and I can do this by holding Shift while I click. Okay, and then I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to do Create a New Group. Now everything is kind of sorted in a folder, and I'm going to name this plus. Okay, and save. So now I've got my plus demo, or my plus images, all the elements, all the layers in that plus folder. And I still have the same PSD, and I'm going to do the next manipulation. Okay, so I'll do that for the next video, but make sure you're saving your file, and hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of how you can use this one Photoshop layer to contain different files in different iterations, right? So you'll see, like, if you're still a little confused, we'll get the hang of it hopefully for the next one, and we'll go from there. All right, so onward to the next one.